They actually managed to screw this up. I'm in complete shock, but today we're talking about the Nintendo Switch new online service called the Expansion Pack, which is overpriced, it is a downgrade, pretty much every aspect of this is slightly broken, which is just bonkers. What's up gamers, Dreamcastguy here, and I'm a gigantic lover of the Nintendo Switch. I play it since day one, I love mine a bunch, and additionally, I'm somebody that's always been a little bit conflicted about the online fee itself, because I'm somebody that did get the Nintendo Switch Online service the second it came out. I've had it for over 3 years, I've been subscribed, but a lot of times it kind of felt like we were supporting this because we had to, and because of the future promise. The baseline features of Nintendo Switch Online have always been incredibly basic, things like cloud saves, the abilities to go onto the internet and play with other people, but I feel like the major appeal originally of Nintendo Switch Online was that it gave you access to NES and SNES games that really played pretty decent. Well, this time around things are different. The Nintendo Switch Expansion Pack includes a bunch of Nintendo 64 games and Sega Genesis games, and shockingly, a lot of these Nintendo 64 games have been downgraded. I am about to just have to rip into this because I decided to stay up late last night playing a bunch of these games with some friends of mine. RGT85, Modern Vintage Gamer, Spawnwave. A lot of us decided to sit down and test out how these games would really play over the course of the internet, because that is the new feature that's been added to this. It's terrible, but I don't want to just talk about this. I want to show you what specifically is just so wrong about this. Now let's begin with just the fact that these games definitely do look a little bit better on the surface. When you initially boot up these Nintendo 64 games, and we do have 9 of them at launch, they do look pretty decent. Like, it's clean, it's fresh, like a lot of times these textures and stuff, even though they are like 25 years old, they are very, very crisp on the screen itself. I kind of appreciate the fact that these games, I feel like they managed to have aged pretty decently when you're just looking at that first impression. It's nice to see how these games look and play and interact nowadays. But if you go into the more technical aspects of it, as much as I enjoy playing like Operation Winback and seeing how good these controls work with the Nintendo Switch controller, you start to notice that there's something wrong. So here's just a little crash course as to what's going on with these systems themselves. So essentially, this is an emulator. When you click these games and you want them to boot up, you're not just playing the game itself, you're actually playing what is essentially like a version of it running on top of an emulator. Now here's always been the issue, in fact, is that the Nintendo 64 is incredibly difficult to emulate. The hardware of it was just so unique that getting a different system to basically replicate it is always going to have some problems. That's why even if you do love Ocarina of Time, it's kind of hard to play Ocarina of Time on anything except the Nintendo 64 original hardware. Like, this is why I've always been a big physical collector, is that a lot of times the best version of a game is the version that came out first. But things have actually gotten a bit worse. Now, so what we're looking at here, this is a viral tweet that's just comparing the original Nintendo 64 hardware version of Ocarina of Time. So you can see here, actually looks pretty fantastic. Like, this is the original release. It is the water temple, obviously. Now you'll notice there is a reflection of the tree. There's these fog effects that make this a little bit less transparent here in the background. But next, this is the Wii U Virtual Console. The Wii Virtual Console. Now, on the Wii Virtual Console, it's definitely HD. All these textures, all these assets look way more high quality, but the fog is slightly faded, and everything is stretched. You can see that things are a bit just widened beyond their normal scope. Here's what it looks like on the Nintendo Switch. As you can see, it is not able to run. For whatever reason, it's breaking the water effects, so there's no longer reflection. It's removed all the fog. Now, this is a tiny detail. I feel like most people, you're not going to actually notice that the water temple's kind of broken looking, that this is visually messed up. Watching these constant errors popping up reminds me of an old game developer quote, which just said that if you screw up the tiny details of the game itself, it's going to ruin the experience for the gamer, even if they don't consciously understand what's gone wrong. And I feel like that kind of comes with this, which is that it's weird to think that a lot of these games already do have better versions of them. If you want to try and play these Nintendo 64 games, you can play them on the previous version's Virtual Console. If you want to play the best version of Ocarina of Time, you still have to do the 3DS remake. But what's most aggravating is that there's actually better versions of these games that already even exist on the Nintendo Switch, like Nintendo 64. It's very unfortunate that the best version of Mario 64 isn't part of this service, but is in fact locked inside the Mario 3D All-Stars collection, which is ridiculous that if you want to play a good version of this game, you have to play it in a different style. I happen to own both, but it's weird that now I currently have two different versions of Mario 64 on my console, and yet one of them is dramatically better than the other, which is just stupid. And this doesn't even bring up the fact that there's input delay when you're just playing the system itself. When you're playing these games, there is a full delay of 1 frame. So whenever you're trying to do stuff, you press the buttons and then it happens. These are separate actions inside the system itself. Where you're pressing the buttons on the controller, it sends them to the console, processes it, and sends it back. This has a delay to it, which is aggravating to say the least. But we haven't even gotten to the fact that the new feature of this, the major reason that I bought the Nintendo Switch Online service, is for the ability to play games online. Like, let's just face facts. These games exist in other fashions. If you wanted to emulate them on your PC, if you want to try and just hack your systems and get them running that way, there's a lot of ways of playing Nintendo 64 games. But what I wanted, the reason I paid such a high price, which I want to get to here at the end, is the fact that I wanted an ability to play games with my friends. The emulation on this is so stupid. So Nintendo Switch is very heavily based on this thing called lockstep netcode, which basically makes it where everybody has to be perfectly in sync. If anybody in the entire lobby is lagging, even in the slightest, it pauses the game for a microsecond. The side effect of this is not only does it ruin the experience in general, making it so things feel incredibly choppy, it actually breaks down the gameplay itself. It makes it where everything goes incredibly slow. It runs like your Nintendo Switch is about to catch on fire, and it completely destroys the audio. Like, straight up, it makes everything sound like, "Welcome to Mario Kart." It is so frustrating that the best version of this game is not on the system that I just paid so friggin' much money for. Now I want to go additional step. I have the Nintendo Switch OLED. This thing is great. Now, part of the reason the Nintendo Switch OLED is so good, and I feel like a lot of people have been demanding it, is because not only is the screen fantastic, but the dock itself has a physical wire in the back, so you can direct connect with an Ethernet cable. I have the best internet in all of Texas. I straight up pay a very high fee every month to make sure I can just instantly upload my videos and play my games at the best bitrate that's absolutely possible. Even I am lagging in these games, even with all of my friends hardwiring our consoles, everybody playing together, it is just randomly laggy. And it's so annoying because it ruins the experience for everybody. A singular lap around the track can be such an annoying experience as you constantly watch the game stutter step, keep you all just in perfect sync. But what else is weird about this is that it only is super broken with Nintendo 64. I don't know why, but the Genesis emulation, because when you actually subscribe to this, you're getting the N64 and also the Sega Genesis, the Genesis emulation is absolutely flawless. Like, it completely confuses me, but I definitely appreciate the fact that as much as the Nintendo 64 online play is very, very messed up, the Genesis emulation is fantastic. These games look clean, they play great, there's absolutely zero input delay, and when you're playing stuff like Streets of Rage with your buddy over the internet, it works flawlessly. Now, I think what's weird about this is that basically it seems like this emulator, the emulator that runs the Sega Genesis games, is just much, much more efficient. But there is still the downside of the fact that this isn't really like a new product. We already have Genesis collections that have been coming out for years and years and years. Like, this is just another packaging of already existing Sega Genesis games. Like right here, I'm showing you just random gameplay of the actual Sega Genesis collection. It just feels a bit weird that we're seeing these games come back after they've been released again and again on every single console, and now they're just thrown into this very expensive packaged together online service. But I want to end this video by talking about the price, because this is definitely the biggest annoyance to me. My major issue with the Nintendo Switch Online service, and the reason I want you not to subscribe to it, I want you to wait, is because it's so expensive with so little benefit. These games themselves are very inferior. They're great games, it's nice to see them here, but this is such a bad version of these 9 Nintendo 64 games that they can hardly even work when you're playing them over the internet. Like Mario Tennis was so laggy, I kept missing my shots. It's annoying to see these games in such a poor state, but part of it just comes down to the fact that this is incredibly expensive. $50 for a service that previously costed $20. This is a 150% price upgrade for something that is a very, very tiny bump up. Like, let's just face facts. The Nintendo Switch Online service probably should have been $1 a month already. And the reason I say that is because you're still not getting much. Did you know the freaking online you're getting with this isn't connecting to Nintendo servers? If you're playing Splatoon, if you're playing Smash Brothers, a lot of these games, they're not actually hooking up to some gigantic super mega brain in Japan. They're connecting to each other. These games are actually built on peer-to-peer networking, which means that they're literally, when you pay this price, they're just unlocking something that already exists in your system. They're unlocking your ability to talk to other freaking consoles. To me, this is ridiculous. It's stupid that they're charging us so much for something that has such a little benefit. Do I enjoy cloud saves? Yes, absolutely. Do I think these games are actually great? I am a giant fan of these classic Nintendo experiences. Yes, but I still feel like this is not worth $50. What always annoyed me the most about Nintendo Switch Online over the course of this last 3 years of paying for it is the fact that it's all about the promise. We have to just sit here and hope and pray that Daddy Nintendo gives you that next big feature, something that's going to let this actually be the service we hope. Dedicated servers, an ability to connect with people more easily, faster connections, or maybe, I don't know, just something that makes this a better experience overall. They don't care. And that's what frustrates me the most. Do not get the Nintendo Switch Online service. Even if you do want to play these games, these aren't the most broken versions. I'm not going to act like these games are just completely shredded code. It's just that this is the biggest and most expensive version to play these games in such a poor state. Get a Nintendo 64. Maybe play them on other systems. Actually get a Wii and do Virtual Console. Like, every other version of these games is better, they're cheaper, and they're not going to screw you over. The standard Nintendo Switch Online is still just $20 a year, and as much as that sucks, at least it's cheap. $50 a year. And the fact that you can't pay this month by month, you can't pay like $4 and play the games you like and then uninstall it, Nintendo knows they're screwing people over. They know that people are going to pay for it because we're fans of Zelda and stuff. And that, to me, is the most annoying part. What do you guys think? Are you excited about this? Are you disappointed with the fact that this is just such a lazy attempt at another cash grab coming from Cash Grab Nintendo? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. What a freaking mess. I cannot believe they did this so badly. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.